Oh, now we're ready. All right.
How many views do you think it takes to get sponsored by Mountain Dew?
One, just theirs. They just need a
That's
view.
probably fair. This episode is not brought to you by Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Can we get in trouble for that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I've done a lot of I wish sponsors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On both the other ones.
Mountain Dew, if you see us,
Sponsors.
yeah, I'm gonna drink it anyways. I might as well be sponsored.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So how do we start this off? How do you want to start this off?
Dude, I say we just cold open just like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Welcome to the Casual Genius podcast, our first episode.
First and final.
Probably. We'll see how bad this goes. I am Ryder Vance. You may know me as the Napster, but probably not. So shout out Seth Green, shout out Sean Parker. This is my co-host right here.
I'm Jaden, otherwise known as J-Mac. Probably also don't know who that is.
The artist formerly known as Panoramic.
Oh, we don't talk about that.
Cool, man. Well, this is something we've been wanting to do for a while, I think.
A week.
Yeah. That's how long it's been in the works, at least. But I've been thinking about doing this for honestly like 6 or 7 years. I've kind of dabbled in some other things doing this, but there was a few months ago we kind of talked about doing this a little bit, and literally the day that we talked about making this a podcast, I saw a tweet and it was like, not everybody needs a podcast. And I was like, this must be a sign. Like, but now I've just gotten to the point where like I don't really care. So
yeah, like
we probably don't need a podcast,
probably.
but who
I mean,
cares?
I don't need another one.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess we won't do this every time, but kind of to intro the podcast a little bit. We've always been big fans of entertainment, music, and television, movies, and all that kind of stuff. And we have a lot of cool conversations about it, reviewing the kind of stuff that we're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've been wanting to do this in this format where we can kind of just put it out there. I like what you said, that we're going to have these conversations anyway, so we might as well put it out there. So that was cool. But we went through a few names, and the Casual Genius podcast made a lot of sense,
right?
Because we're casuals. Like we have no expertise, we have no credentials to have this, like to have us be the law above what's true and not true in movie and music reviews, but we're gonna act like we're geniuses. So because but anyways,
because if we don't, why do this?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of to introduce us a little bit. But I think we'll kind of jump right in. We wanted to start off today with some of the news topics floating around media, some things that have been announced, things coming out soon, things that just came out.
Right.
You have one you want to start with, or should we just jump in with a random one?
You want to do what are they called? The trailers?
Yeah, let's jump in with
trailers.
those.
Yeah, so the first one that kind of actually like caught my attention that I didn't think would was the, how do you say it? Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Oppenheimer one. Like you've been talking about that one for a while now.
Yeah.
And it sounded boring. So there was no reason to actually look at the trailer until we started this.
Right.
So I watched it, and I can't lie, I was on the edge of my seat already. Like it looks super good.
Yeah, dude. The radiation, like background noises, and then like the countdowns throughout the trailer is crazy.
And just like, because I don't know anything about this, like these events or whatever, but to even see them like go off into like not an uncharted area, but like the middle of absolutely nowhere to like figure out how they're going to succeed and make this happen, it's like kind of tells you how urgently they have to figure this out. They got to go quick, and they can't make any mistakes, or else everything goes downhill.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a really cool premise for a movie. I know there's a lot of biopics that have been coming out about various different people, and this is one that I was super excited about because it's such a controversial moment in human history.
Right.
Like, I love at the end of the trailer that line that they read, like, "You're the man that gave them the power to destroy themselves."
Yeah.
Like that to me was a super cool line, and I think it's going to make for a really interesting biopic.
Right.
And aside from like his Dark Knight trilogy, you hadn't seen a whole lot of Christopher Nolan stuff until pretty recently. We watched a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Knowing kind of his background, what are you looking forward to, or like, what do you think? How do you think this movie's going to turn out?
I'm so excited for it not to hurt my brain. This will be, besides the Dark Knight trilogy, this will be the first one that isn't mind-boggling and I have to think about it for like a week. And so I'll be sane during and after the movie.
Yeah, I hope, at least. Like, knowing Christopher Nolan, there's always the chance for that. But I am really excited for it. I think it's going to give a lot of similar vibes to a movie he did called Dunkirk a while back, as another World War II movie, I believe.
Gotcha.
But it had a lot of super cool cinematography. The storyline was pretty straightforward, kind of like what I'm expecting Oppenheimer to be, but he did a really good job with the visuals. A lot of people didn't like it because it was a little bit slower. And I think this one might be, but I think the suspense of kind of the moment will carry through that whole movie, because it does seem really interesting. But the 3-hour runtime is what...
It's 3 hours?
Yeah, the 3-hour runtime seems like a question mark for me. But I'm super excited because it's got Cillian Murphy in that. Matt Damon's in it, RDJ. There's tons of big names. And I think in order to get to know all of those characters, you kind of have to have that longer movie. And I feel like recently we've seen movies do that successfully. Like, Endgame didn't feel like a 3-hour film.
Yeah, no, it really didn't.
Even No Way Home, that Spider-Man movie, was a pretty long movie. It was like 2:45 or something.
Yeah.
Even The Dark Knight Rises is pretty long. So I think he'll do a good job keeping up the pace, but it is one that I'm looking forward to a lot.
Yeah, no, it looked really good. And I didn't even know, I don't do well with like the names of actors and actresses. I'll never actually be good at that. But then I saw Robert Downey Jr. and I was like, oh, hey.
It's familiar.
Yeah, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. I can't even remember who it said he plays, but I think he's like a government figure in it.
Right.
So it'll be pretty cool. That's my pick for what I would predict to be the best movie of the year. I think it will be.
Interesting. Not far-fetched.
Yeah. And it's just because I don't know. I mean, there has been war movies, there's been great biopics, but to see kind of, like I said, that controversial moment in human history from both sides or from his perspective is going to be really interesting. I think.
Yeah, no, it actually does look good. So I'll stop giving you crap about that one.
Because it sounds like a weird
movie
title.
Yeah. I want to see Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I'm looking forward to. Now, one that I'm not so sure that I am looking forward to is the White Men Can't Jump remake.
So stoked. I'm so excited.
It came out on Friday, the 19th of May, just barely. And it currently sits with a 4 out of 10 on IMDb. 4 out of 10. For frame of reference, like what many consider the worst superhero movie of all time, Batman vs Superman, has a 6.5. So honestly, I get that it's a comedy, and like obviously stars Jack Harlow. Laura Harrier from Spider-Man Homecoming is the other big name that I saw in it. Honestly, I feel like for me, the cutoff, I get that it's supposed to be a comedy and like the plot may not be extravagant, the acting may not be extravagant, and it's just supposed to be like a fun time movie. But I feel like 5 out of 10, like consensus reviews, 5 out of 10 is kind of where I draw the line on like whether the only way I feel like I'll see this is on like a long flight when I'm super bored.
Yeah.
that may be when I watch it, because 4 out of 10 seems pretty bad.
That was pretty bad.
And the original didn't do great. I think it had like a 6.5 out of 10, but still, that's quite a big step.
So watching that trailer,
the trailer looks good.
The trailer does look really good. Yeah. And I mean, at least from the trailer portion, Jack Harlow didn't look like he was uncomfortable or like out of
for sure
character. Like it just seemed like he was being himself.
Right.
Which that's always like one question I have is if a celebrity who does something else comes into like a movie, like Ice Cube. Like Ice Cube's not your typical actor, even Kevin Hart.
Sure.
But they play their roles really well. So that's always a question. I feel like at least in the trailer, like Jack Harlow just acted like himself.
Yeah. I think it seems like a good fit for him because it doesn't feel like he's playing something that he's uncomfortable with, like you're saying. It seems like he's playing a slightly different version of himself. Instead of like rapper version, he's kind of playing a basketball hustler.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it fits his personality pretty 100%.
Well. Yeah. I'm probably gonna watch that soon because James was he texted us in the group chat. He said it was super funny. So do I trust James's opinion? No,
not always.
But everyone,
shout out James. It's all good.
Every once in a while, he's on to something.
Fair.
So I'm hoping this is one of those.
Yeah,
times.
let me know how it turns out. If you give it the stamp of approval, I may give it a watch.
Okay. Yeah, because it's on Hulu, right? That's where it got released. Yeah. Yeah.
So. Yeah, Hulu release. And that leads kind of a little bit into another release that came out recently, and that was the Air movie about Phil Knight and kind of Air Jordan, the start of the famous, like probably the most famous shoe of all time, right?
100%. Yeah.
And that's got I think I wrote it down. It has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb right now, which is really good. And I was reading it was actually supposed to be just an Amazon Prime release when they were filming it. And then they felt so good about it in production that they released it in theaters. And so the budget they had for the movie, anything that they make from theaters is just straight profit on top of anything that comes out on Amazon. And so the fact that it's doing really well gives me a lot of hope I feel like some of these movies that just release on these platforms aren't as good quality as what we see come out in the theaters. And the fact that they felt good enough about it to release it in the theaters and that it's doing so well makes me really excited to see it. I like the trailer again for that one looked pretty cool to me.
Yeah, my friend invited me to go see it with him. They were doing like 3 movies in one day because it was like $5 Tuesday. And I think I had just come back from Minnesota, so I was like, no, I'm tired. Just want to lay down.
Right.
But that's one that I need to see that one, I feel like, before it does leave theaters. I'm super interested. The trailer looked really good. And from the people that have watched it that I've asked about have only said good things about it. So that one I am
that's good.
Excited to see.
I feel like we always get these kind of classic Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movies.
Right.
And they feel pretty 50-50 for me. Like it's either great or I could kind of care less, like just when I see them. But this does feel like one of them where I am a lot more excited to see it. And I think they're going to do a really good job with it. It feels like Ben Affleck's wheelhouse as a director.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I do need it. I'll probably try to see that this week if I'm not crazy busy.
Yeah,
because I need to hurry up and see that
one. Another big release that just came out is, I don't even know how to describe this anymore. Fast and Furious 10.
It's shut down production.
Like, I can't. I don't feel like you can hype it up anymore. It's just, it is what it is. You know what you're gonna get every movie, I feel like, and yet it's so streaky. Like, have you seen all 9 of the other ones?
No.
Okay.
And I've seen the first, I want to say 3, maybe 4, but I know for a fact I've seen the first 3, and I loved them. Like,
they're great.
They're great movies all the way around. But then once they got into the whole saving the world thing with cars,
feels like a stretch for sure.
Right, like, I don't need to see Vin Diesel catching cars because that's not real. He's not a superhero in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I feel like they're so streaky because I personally, like, I really liked the 8 Fast and Furious movie. I thought it turned out really well for what it was.
Right.
And there was some of that over the top naturally. They kind of, they keep getting bigger and bigger. And there was a little bit of that in the 8th.
Right.
But I felt like they executed that one really, really well. And it was the first one they did totally without Paul Walker. So it was really surprising to me.
Right.
And then, like, they're so streaky. Like 7, I didn't love. Like, it was a cool tribute to Paul Walker, but I didn't love the film. The 6th one is one of my favorites. And then, like, 5 is okay. 4 is okay. 3, 2, and 1 kind of progressively get better the further back you go. But then in the 9th one, when Ludacris is in space, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I watching?
I didn't even know he was in space.
Yeah, he takes a freaking car in space. So
it makes sense.
Yeah, and so I have no idea how it's going to turn out. There are some spoilers that I read that I won't divulge in case anyone wants to watch it, and because I don't know if they're true because I haven't seen it, but seem like interesting plot twists.
Really?
Seem like cool things that will help the movie, I think.
I've seen a couple things on like TikTok, like breaking down the trailer and everything. Mm-hmm. This man Vin Diesel really did catch a car that was flying at him, and then just kind of like set it down, kind of.
Yeah.
And things like that. Just how did it turn from racing into saving the world?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's escalated so quickly.
Yeah.
And except not really, because 10 movies kind of it's kind of like looking back and like, how did we get here? Like you watch one and then you watch 10, or even you watch the trailer for 10 and you're like, is this the same film franchise?
No, for real. Yeah. I also don't like that John Cena's in it. I don't know which movie he like first appeared. I think
he was in the 9th first time.
I don't like that he's in. He seems so out of place.
In the 9th one, it feels like that. It feels like, because Dwayne Johnson's not in the 9th, but he's in the ones before that, and it feels like a weird WWE replacement just to put someone with a lot of muscle in.
Yeah, like no, I'm not excited for that movie.
Yeah, that might be one that I may watch it once it's like out on streaming. Like I may watch it when I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'll probably watch what is considered the first, like the original before it started getting like crazy.
I would say that's kind of tough. I feel like because it's very progressive, but I think the 5th is kind of like the cutoff where it goes from feeling like racing or like kind of that original storyline to where they're kind of like saving the whole world.
Yeah.
And in the 5th one, they end up they're kind of like running from the law the whole time because of their street racing business. They're smuggling and doing all this stuff.
Right.
And in the 5th one, they basically go on a mission together to heist $100 million so that they can just get out of like crime and business and all of that. And then after that, the 6th one, they kind of get brought out of retirement to go save the world, kind of thing.
Interesting.
So, but the 6th one I do really like because it doesn't feel as far-fetched as the other ones. Right. It is for sure, but not like
as much.
Yeah, and I don't like in the last one they kind of steered into like the memes of how family, like how much of a meme that is, and like how much of a meme it is that they never die. They steer into that kind of the whole movie, and I didn't really like that vibe.
Valid.
But I don't know. I am curious, but I'm not gonna say I'm excited to see it.
No. So if I've only seen the first 3, why would I watch
10?
And exactly. I'm not gonna waste my money.
Fair enough. And I guess jumping from that level of obscurity to another is probably the most hyped superhero movie in a while, I would say. Probably since Spider-Man.
Oh,
The Flash.
Yeah, The Flash. I thought you were gonna pull some crap and say it was like the Marvels or something.
A joke? No. Yeah. No, yeah, that's yeah, we'll get there in a minute, but I think The Flash is probably one of the most hyped superhero movies in a while.
Absolutely.
Like for sure, post-pandemic, it's right up there with the new Spider-Man.
Yeah, and when was I think the first trailer came out for Super Bowl now? Like was that
the first
like
full length? Actual, yeah, there was a couple teasers I think before that, but that was the first full length.
Yeah, and I remember we were watching the Super Bowl. I don't know about you, but my mouth dropped. Like it looked really, really good.
For sure.
Going back, because I think it's the second trailer now that's officially out and everything. Mm-hmm. Once I was looking at that, I'm a little worried about it.
Hesitant.
Yeah, because there are so many superheroes in it. And like I get the plot. I know that he's going back in time, and so you're gonna see a couple things. Mm-hmm. But if anything, I don't know. I don't like when solo hero films throw in so many superheroes, especially if it's your first go at it. Like this is the first Flash movie we've seen.
Yeah,
I don't know if I don't
think there's ever been a big blockbuster release of a Flash movie.
So like for your first one, you're already having like, I want to say it's one Superman, Supergirl,
Superwoman, Supergirl,
and then you have 2 Batmans, you got 2 Flashes.
Yeah.
And that's just from what we've seen now.
Yeah.
Who's to say that there aren't more?
Honestly, it feels a little bit like Spider-Man, where there's so many rumors just flying out. Like, I've heard George Clooney from the 90s is coming back. I've heard that Christian Bale may be coming back. I've heard Grant Gustin from the Flash TV show may be taking over, like, because of all of Ezra Miller's troubles. And they're totally resetting the DC universe. I think that's what I'm really curious about, because this movie's been in production for so long, and so far before James Gunn and Peter Safran took over DC, that I'm so curious to see how they're going to reset this whole thing. With what feels like it's going to be a lot of reshoots.
Yeah, like, I don't, like you're saying, like, I just don't see the direction they're going with right now. I am excited for it. Like, it nonetheless, it does look good, but I've also heard a lot of people saying, like, it's going to be the greatest superhero movie ever.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
Yeah.
Maybe in like recent years, because you even look at like Endgame, and that was like 5 years ago already. So recent years, not as much of a stretch. But all time, you have to beat The Dark Knight. You got to beat Endgame, Infinity War. You got to beat Spider-Man 2. I know that's a lot of people's favorite superhero movie. Like, you have so much competition. Like, you could even, like, I've heard some people say the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League. Like, there you have a lot of competition. So to say that's a stretch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of like that there hasn't been a lot given away, because I do like that I don't really know the direction of the film, because that makes me want to see it. I hate watching a trailer and then walking in feeling like I already know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's why, I mean, I didn't tell you this, but you were like, all right, we're going to do like Across the Spider-Verse, the Marvels I didn't really care about. It was really just Across the Spider-Verse, because I had not seen any of the trailers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I stay away from like superhero trailers because of that feeling.
Sure.
I don't think I felt that way with the Across the Spider-Verse. I feel like I'm still pretty okay.
Yeah. Still aren't sure exactly what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can jump into that one next.
Yeah.
Because I think Into the Spider-Verse, I know for some people it wasn't their favorite because of the animation style.
Wow.
Just like I know people I've talked to that like, and it feels very comic book like it feels very much like a new style of animation, which is totally cool if that's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, I remember when Ready Player One came out. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. I saw that movie the day I got a concussion, and I remember just like my eyes were like being blinded. I hadn't, like, it was way too much. I walked out of there with the worst migraine. So like, I understand that it may not be everyone's kind of cup of tea. And the reason I say that is just there's a lot of that kind of big color, big movement stuff that I feel like it's understandable that it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but widely considered one of the best animated films in recent years. Yeah, for sure. And I loved 100%. It personally. I thought it was a really good film.
Solid story. I loved that style of animation.
When you look at what it's caused, like everything that's coming out nowadays is getting that animation style. The Ninja Turtles trailer, even Puss in Boots has a ton of that animation style. Right. So it's been very influential, I think, in that regard.
100%. Yeah. I'm excited for the new one.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too hyped about it though, just because I feel like even a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's gonna be like better than the first one and whatever else they want to say. I'm gonna take it down a notch just because I feel like if that's our standards and it's just even if it's just as good as the first one, you're gonna leave disappointed.
Sure.
I don't want to feel that way. Right. Like, especially if it's a great movie. Yeah. You don't want to feel that way. So like, I'm excited, but like at a reasonable sense.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Cause and to go back to what you're saying, I think it does feel like we don't know the whole plot line of what's going to happen in this movie, because I feel like just watching it left me with question marks. Like, what is this storyline?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, there's a part where in the trailer they're like, oh, get Spider-Man, and then you're kind of like, what did Miles Morales do to
Yeah.
get every Spider-Man across the multiverses to chase him?
Right.
So,
But and then they all do the Spider-Man point meme. That was fantastic. That was a great incorporation. But I will say, from just a Marvel fan standpoint, I far prefer seeing the multiverse in this setting, in like an animation setting,
Yeah.
than I do in like a live action setting. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that there's all bad in the multiverse, but I feel like I don't know, it feels more fitting when I'm in the movie watching it in that setting, as
Right.
opposed to like, I feel like we associate a lot of live action with realistic,
Mhm.
and obviously no Marvel movie is realistic too, but
Right.
being within like the confines of what we've come to expect from superhero cinema, I feel like it feels way more fitting in this kind of style, and it
Yeah.
allows them to do a lot more with it, which I like.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't help that we got the Doctor Strange movie where they spend like four, if anything, like 4 minutes in one universe that's like different. And then other than that, it's like
It was like a
20
one
seconds.
montage
Yeah,
through
like,
this.
oh, this is crazy.
Right.
Like, yeah, so that doesn't help. I think the closest we've gotten to like a good live action multiverse thing has been like the Loki TV show, because you kind of get jumped around from place to place. But I feel like that was okay. I feel like it was enough time spent and I didn't feel like overwhelmed or underwhelmed. But I agree. I feel like, especially right now, it seems better when it's like in animation instead of live action.
And with how good of a job they did in the first one, I feel like I can expect that level of quality from them.
Yeah.
So I think we have two more movies.
Okay.
So the Marvels,
trash.
Yeah, we can just stop there.
Yeah, that's it. That's
and
it.
honestly,
It's trash.
I like, just before we move on from that one, I don't mind the premise of the characters. Like, I love the idea of female leads in their movies. I think that's super cool to have in superhero cinema. I think it's been missing that for a really long time. But like, with how annoying the actresses they chose to play those characters are, just in that 2-minute teaser trailer, I was like, there's no way I want to see this. Like,
Yeah, no.
I've heard rumors that Brie Larson got recast, and I'm like, I honestly like Brie Larson in some of her stuff. Like in 21 Jump Street, she's great in that movie.
Yeah,
she's really
100%.
funny.
I forgot that it was Brie Larson.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't even associate that because of how different her performance in Captain Marvel is.
Yeah.
But I think it could have been a lot better.
Yeah. These were my notes. Looks trash. Only good part is Nick Fury. On top of that, it's already gotten terrible reviews. Done.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll let the audience speak. If there's anyone out there listening that sees it and wants to correct us or call us out, please do. Please do. It seems consensus. It seems like nobody's excited for it.
Everyone, nobody's excited for this.
Right. Oh man, let's get off this subject quick before we spend more time on it. But the last one we want to talk about was one that's been in the works for a while, it looks like. Indiana Jones 5.
Yep.
Dial of Destiny, which comes out at the end of June here.
Gotcha.
What are you thinking about that?
Not excited.
Really?
Yeah. Harrison Ford is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
Has been for like a long, long time.
For sure.
Like, I watch Star Wars for Han Solo. I don't really care about all the Jedi. Like, cool. I like the side characters. Han Solo is my favorite character. But he's old. He's not doing this at his age.
He's 80.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not moving around like this.
That was a theory as to why they killed him in Star Wars, because they were like, he may not be around to do many more movies.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, which also gives me questions from Marvel and his casting with that. But nonetheless, like, yeah, the dude's just old. And I don't know. I might be a little biased. I'm not super into Indiana Jones. Never really have been.
That's fair.
When I was younger, there was one, I don't remember which one, but one of the bad guys got like eaten by fire ants.
Yeah, there's some kind of questionable moments,
and it terrified me. So I never saw another one.
Yeah.
So I think I've only seen one Indiana Jones movie,
Okay.
to be quite honest with you.
So I think there's this is the fifth one. So
Yeah.
there's 4 before this. The fourth, pretty wide belief that it's bad. Like no, I don't know of a whole lot of people that love that movie. It may have its moments, but the first Indiana Jones is the highest rated, and I think it has an 8.5 out of 10 on IMDb. So it's like one of the top rated movies ever.
Gotcha.
Which is pretty cool.
Right.
And I think because a lot of our generation saw it so young, or maybe never saw it because it came out so long ago, it gets kind of forgotten and put on the back burner behind a lot of these other great old movie series. Like everyone's seen Star Wars. Most people have seen like Back to the Future.
Right.
Most people have seen these great film franchises from back in the day. But Indiana Jones, I feel like unnecessarily gets forgotten for how good of a movie series it was.
Right.
And partly because of the fourth movie wasn't great, but it's been a long time. And to me, this movie looks like a little bit more true return to the original series, which I think will be cool. I'm worried that it'll be a little cliche, just like a ton of homages to the old Indiana Jones movies and like maybe some kind of cheesy CGI on young Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I hope they clean that up for the final film, but it looks a little cheesy right now.
Yeah. In the trailer, it did look like, and I don't know how much of that they'll incorporate throughout the movie, but yeah, it does do a lot of like backflashes or like just that old, or I guess that younger Indiana Jones.
Younger Indiana Jones from the old days.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So because I hope they don't do that too often. Those kinds of things kind of piss me off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how that one turns out. I feel like it's got a lot of potential, but again, I don't know how high my hopes are for it. So
isn't one of them called like the Crystal Skull? Or
I think that was the fourth one. Okay. Yeah, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Is that the one you saw? If it is, it explains a lot why you didn't like those movies.
I don't know. I might have to go back and watch them. Okay. I'm not opposed to it. It's not like I don't like Indiana, but I'll have
the film you saw wasn't your cup of tea.
No, just the fire ant part just terrified me.
Well, and whenever you saw it, I mean, you were probably pretty young.
Yeah. So I want to say I was like 6 or 7.
Oh yeah.
So it's
a little scary.
Yeah. I had a phobia of ants for the longest time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not a fan, but I'll go back and watch those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, we're gonna jump into our Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review here in a second, but we wanted to cover a few music topics. There's been a lot of news on it lately. But
okay, just making sure.
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay.
This is our first time, guys. We're still figuring this out. Don't judge us.
I just don't want it to be like, all right, you guys are done.
We've been done for 20 minutes and nobody's gonna know this conversation. And it's never good the second time you have it. No. It never works out. But we'll jump into a couple of these music topics. So there's a couple releases that have been announced. Travis Scott's Utopia is supposed to come out in June. There's no specific release date that I've seen for it yet, but he did say that he played it in the Houston Astros locker room for the team, meaning it's done. He's just kind of working on the mastering of it, it sounds like. But there's rumored to be a couple features. Sway Lee was one I saw. James Blake was another one. Bryson Tiller.
Okay.
A lot of it's under wraps. It sounds like very similar to Astro World, where we didn't see any of those features before the album came out.
Yeah.
I know you're not the biggest Travis Scott fan. How are you feeling about this one?
So I did my research.
Sure.
I didn't even know he was coming out with a new album.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. And so when you sent me that, I was hoping, you know how on Apple Music, it'll tell you like, it'll be right on the first thing you click. It'll show like this album and then coming out or upcoming.
Yeah. Sure.
Whatever. So I was expecting to see that.
Yeah. No, I don't think we can anything.
Literally nothing.
Nothing other than that he said
that he's doing.
Yeah, he said June is like kind of what we've heard.
So I went back and I didn't listen to any of his previous albums, but I did listen to the 2 most recent singles he has, which is Ring Ring and something.
Was it the Atlanta? Escape Plan? Oh, Down in Atlanta. With Pharrell.
Yeah. So I listened to those and I was thoroughly impressed.
Really?
Like, I actually loved both of them. Like I loved those songs.
Yeah.
I downloaded both of them. The instrumentals were beautiful. Like both were so very different from each other,
I know, and very diverse from what I feel like we've gotten from him.
Absolutely. Like, and then I just don't like mumble rappers. That's like my biggest thing. And he has so much auto tune that like a lot of the time I don't understand or hear what he's saying.
And that's fair.
But in those two, I felt like it was like the line.
He has a lot more delivery, or at least a lot more charisma in the delivery, I feel like.
Right. And I really liked Ring Ring because it had Don Toliver and it had Quavo.
They both give good features.
They killed it. Yeah. Like, and I'm not even huge on Don Toliver either. Right. And I haven't listened much to the Migos or Quavo or Offset. None of them. Like, I don't really know what they're about. But they both killed it. Yeah. Like, I loved every single part of Ring Ring. That's like probably, I wouldn't say one of my favorites, but it's definitely up
one
there.
Of the better songs you've heard this year.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. Very so cool.
It's giving you hope.
It does. I never want to like judge an artist based off of a bias or like past stuff I've heard. Mm-hmm. I always want to try to give people like a fair chance before I just assume, okay, no, it's trash.
Right.
So yeah, like honestly, I am hopeful about this one. And I think in my notes I even said like with those two singles, I feel like it's given me hope to walk away with a couple new songs in your
catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, Travis Scott's kind of been a question mark throughout his career. So his album Rodeo was when I first heard of him, and everyone knows the song Antidote.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was ahead of its time. Like it felt like something brand new that not a lot of people were doing in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people kind of caught on to that. So when his second album, Birds in the Trap, came out, it felt like just kind of a less good continuation of what was already happening. Right. Like there wasn't any real innovation. We got the great track Goosebumps, Pick Up the Phone. There's a couple other good ones, but in general, like it wasn't as well received as Rodeo was. And then Astroworld kind of did what Rodeo did. Like it was a good step for him in terms of innovation. And again, I feel like a lot of people have kind of caught up to that style right now. I mean, you hear people like Don Toliver or Sofago or whoever that's doing a lot of this similar stuff to what Travis is doing. And it worries me a little bit that there's not going to be anything that stands out from it.
Right.
But he's definitely capable of that innovation that I've heard. And I think it has the potential to do it. The only question is, will it? I do like the rollout that we don't have an album cover. We don't have a track list. We don't have a feature list. We don't really have any confirmed singles. Like he's been releasing music, but nothing that we know for sure is going to be on it. I like going into an album with that vibe that like, I don't know, kind of similar to the movies. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get. And it makes it an interesting listening experience.
Yeah. Does he produce his own?
He produces a lot of it.
Okay.
That's how he got his start. He produced a couple songs on Yeezus for Kanye.
That's one thing I will give him a lot of credit for. He's, in my opinion, he's one of the better producers in today's music world.
For sure.
Like that's one thing I'll always look to from Travis is he'll always have a solid production every single time.
Even when he doesn't do it, I feel like he recruits a lot of good talent on the Metro Boomin record.
Absolutely.
He kills his parts. On the Pharrell record that you're talking about down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's not his production, obviously. I don't know how much of a hand he had in it, but I think Pharrell probably played the big part.
Right.
But he sounds good on it.
Yeah. No, that one made me really happy. I liked that collaboration a lot.
And it like you said, it feels unexpected from him. It doesn't feel like Travis Scott that I've gotten before.
Yeah. No, it's not as party-ish as
what like I Antidote
heard.
Or Goosebumps or Sicko Mode. Yeah.
It's
a different vibe. It's a different vibe.
That does like bring a lot of excitement for me at least.
100%. Yeah. And I guess kind of going into more new sound styles, we got the announcement this week that Post Malone's fifth album, Austin, is dropping in July. And he said he's playing guitar on every song.
Yeah.
And that is some of the most challenging work. We've heard Chemical and we've heard Morning now, just came out 2 days ago.
Yep.
What are you thinking about this one? This is interesting.
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna get hate if people watch this. I'm not excited, but not because I think it's gonna be bad. Like, I love Post Malone. Yeah. He's easily one of my favorite artists, probably of all time now. I loved his last album a lot, actually. But with Chemical and Morning, I wasn't impressed. Good songs, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's nothing that I haven't already heard from him.
Yeah, agreed.
I feel like in 12 Karat Toothache, I got different vibes throughout the album. You could even take that back to especially Hollywood's Bleeding. And the first album I heard from Post was Beer Bongs and Bentleys. All throughout all of those albums, I feel like I've always gotten something new and unexpected from Post.
Sure.
So now, and I'm like, obviously there's a whole album to it, but from hearing Chemical and Morning, I didn't feel that way. Once again, it was good.
Yeah.
But I kind of just tuned them out after like half of the song.
And to your point, I do feel like we've gotten a lot of this from him before. They're very reminiscent of songs like Circles or Sunflower, or even it's got some vibes of like I Like You, kind of some of that stuff. I'm with you. I've liked most of what Post Malone's put out in his discography. I feel like each artistic step has been different, and I could put them all up near favorite of his albums for different reasons.
Yeah.
And when he said he was playing guitar on every song, I thought, like, just based on what I've heard from him recently, I thought it was going to be very acoustic, very folksy, very like songs like Stay, or I guess Circles a little bit, though Circles feels a lot more pop.
Right.
Or like, I don't know if you've heard the tracks Feeling Whitney or Go Flex from Stoney, but I was thinking it would be a lot of that kind of vibe. And I was really excited for that because I think some of his acoustic stuff is some of his best stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like he's been in the hip hop sphere his whole career, more or less. Like it's always around that, whether or not it's true rap or whatever is up for everyone's own taste. But I feel like it's always been around that. But his acoustic stuff, I feel like he really finds his vocals. He really finds his flow, and the lyrics are always like not outrageously good, but they're always like an interesting listen.
Right.
And so I thought we were going to get a lot of that. I heard rumor that it was going to be very rock, which I was open to because I like Take What You Want. I think he did pretty good on. Even Rockstar, the remix, has a lot of guitar on it. I feel like has a lot of good potential there. But from hearing his first two singles, it doesn't sound like it's deviating far from what he's already done. Like you said, like it's very refined, very auto-tuned, very saturated with synthesizers. There's a lot of synthetic production on it, in spite of there being guitar on both songs. There's a lot of like those hip-hop drums and bass and that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just makes me feel like we're just getting kind of a continuation of what he's already done, rather than him really stepping into new territory. And like I said, I'm going to enjoy new Post Malone. I feel like regardless of whatever it is, just because it's a new sound, it's new lyrics, it's new vocals, even if it is very similar. But I would like to hear him do something very acoustic without any auto-tune or synthetics, or without a lot of it at least, which there has been on these last couple songs. Or hear him do something very rock, very different than what he's already done. And I'm sure we'll get some of that just based on variety, but I don't feel like it's going to be a huge step in a new direction for him based on what we've heard.
I'm going to go to his concert though. I can't miss Post.
Where are you headed? Phoenix. I mean, there's none nearby us. You're going to Phoenix?
Yeah. Because
I was disappointed. No Vegas, no Salt Lake.
Yes, that was shocking to me, honestly.
Especially being that he lives in Salt Lake now.
100%.
I think it's because he's doing Hive in July up in Salt Lake. So I think
that makes sense.
He'll probably do a very similar show. To what he's going to do on his tour would be what I guess. But Vegas was a surprise. I feel like that's a big tour city.
Absolutely. But yeah, I want to. Post is one of the people I need to see.
Sure.
Because I feel like, especially artists today, you never know, like, this tour could be their last. It could be their first, but it could also be their last.
And he's a guy I could very well see being like, all right, this is the record, this is the tour. I'm retired. Like, I'm going to be a dad. I'm just 100%. I want to go into business. I could totally. He's totally the type of guy that would do that.
Right. And like respectfully, so like, I wouldn't. I feel like there's not a reason why he hasn't already. Like, I'm glad he hasn't already, but like, you know, he just seems like the type of dude that like he's already had so much success, and like He's done his tours. He's made his songs.
And I think the love for music is real.
Oh, yeah.
For him, but I don't feel like the love for the industry. Like I don't, and rightfully so. I've just from what we know about the music industry, it's not always friendly to artists.
Right.
The demands are not always friendly on artists, and just his personality style, I could see him wanting to live his own life and being away from that be more important to him than being around the music industry.
Kind of like what Logic did. How he just kind of like,
and I could totally see him going, and he kind of has done that a little bit, going to Salt Lake and living out, doing his own thing. But I think he could very well be someone that does that. But anyways, we do know we're getting a new album from him, so that time has not yet come. 17 tracks on it, a little bit longer than his last project. So
I'm excited to see if he does who he'll have feature.
Right.
I feel like he has a good selection of people whenever he does put other artists on.
That's true.
So I'm always excited to see.
Always a little bit of like who's popping right now with some old flair in it too, like some artists that we like.
I feel like he doesn't care about like positioning, if that makes sense. Like, oh, this person is the top person right now, I need a song with them. No, he'll go kind of like what NF has done lately too, like how on like Clouds he got Tech Nine and Hobson, or like he just got Corday. Corday's a little bit on the popular side, but I feel like Post Malone doesn't care who's where in their career, if they're on a downhill, if they're like coming up, or if they're already on the top, which I respect a lot. Like that makes me happy.
Yeah, I feel like we've heard a ton of variety from Post Malone's features and artists he's featured with, from like, you got guys like YG to 21 Savage to Sway Lee to Doja Cat to Young Thug Gunna, Travis Scott, Ozzy. There's a huge variety of that. I mean, he even had 2 Chainz and Justin Bieber on the same album and Stoney. It's kind of a wild thought to think. But anyways, I don't want to spend too long on that one because we do have other stuff we want to talk about. But I think it's one that we're both at least looking forward to listening to.
I always love new posts.
The third album we want to talk about is coming up is, I don't know how you feel about this one, but it's Lil Durk's Almost Healed, coming out, I think next week, the 26th.
So I heard, what is it called? All My Life. I heard that one.
What'd you think?
I loved that song.
It's cool.
Really good. And I didn't unintentionally started hating Lil Durk. Not like recently, but when because I feel like he came out with everybody else that wanted to call themselves Lil, and so I kind of just put them all in the same category, that if you're a Lil and you're not Lil Wayne, you're trash. Or Lil Dicky. Exception. But
comedic exception.
So I feel like I just kind of put them all in the same category. And then once I started listening to some of his, this is where James, like every once in a while, he's on to something.
With something.
James put me on one of his songs, and I kind of got that respect for him. Like, okay, he's good sometimes. Like he's actually not bad. I heard this one, loved this song. I think J. Cole was a perfect feature for this. Then again, I feel like you could get J. Cole on anything and it's gonna,
especially in the last year. I've heard J. Cole, I feel like, on any type of song,
and he kills it every time. But like, it was such an upbeat song. Like, that's a song that just made me feel good all the way around throughout the entire song. Just like, I felt good, I felt happy. Like, so I'm excited. I haven't listened to Lil Durk like that at all. This will be the first album I
go top to bottom.
Because I he's just not somebody I used to like care about. Like, you hear the Lil Durk's dropping? No, I don't care. but now like, I respect him enough. And I think I started respecting him when he was on with Corday. It was Chronicles with Corday, Lil Durk, and is it her or is it HER?
It's her.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
that song. I don't know.
That's what I call
her. But so I'm excited. I actually am.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard that, the first thought that came to my mind, like when you hear that kind of youth choir kind of sound, I was like, oh, J. Cole, perfect feature for this. Like, I feel like he's killed a lot of songs like that, where it's got like that kind of, I don't know, it feels very homegrown. It feels very gospel, and it feels very and it also incorporates a lot of trap. Like, and then the second thing is the song as a whole felt very 21 Savage. Like, I don't know if you ever heard Monster that he did with Gambino, or A Lot, or My Life with J. Cole. Both of those songs have a lot of those similar vibes.
Right.
And I felt like, it was a little bit of a miss. Like, that second feature from 21 may have gone really well on this.
Right.
But I mean, all in all, it was a really good song. He's an artist that I feel like I've heard greatness from, but I will say I haven't heard consistent greatness from him.
Yeah.
And so he's young though. Like, is this the time when we could? I definitely think there's that possibility.
Right.
It could be one of the better albums we hear this year. I think there's a lot of songs that look like on it. I don't think there's been a track list release or anything, but there looks like quite a few songs on it. And I feel like that gives artists a lot of room to release misses, like release songs that aren't as good.
Right.
So we'll see though. I mean, I feel like he's got the potential.
21 songs.
21. So
21 songs. And that's the only song that's been released. So
yeah. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. I think he could do really well.
I think, especially because he is young, I feel like getting people to record with him like J. Cole and Cordae, people who are already like J. Cole, who's already been there, done that, and is continuing to do it, and Cordae being one that's also on his way up. I feel like those are good people to be around, to help him get to that certain standpoint. So
yeah, for sure. So the last one, this was super last minute that I sent you, but Beyonce and Kendrick 2 days ago released a remix of her song America Has a Problem. I'm sure referencing a lot of like the gun violence. I think the cover is the American flag with ammunition shells,
something like that.
Yeah. What'd you think of this one?
I got bored.
Okay.
Like instantly.
Yeah.
And okay, so I tried to follow along with the lyrics, and on Apple it's
wrong.
It's not right.
It's not the right lyrics. I don't think
there are zero right lyrics.
Okay. Okay, that wasn't just me. Okay.
Yeah, no, because I was like, okay, like
he's kind of spitting a little bit.
I was like, he's kind of going crazy. Let me follow along, see what he's actually saying. And then it wasn't the lyrics. And so that kind of took me out of it already. That's not their fault. That's whoever is in charge of their Apple or whatever.
Right.
But after Kendrick did his thing, I got bored. Like, I'm not huge on Beyonce. I like some of her older songs. I'm just not huge on Beyonce. I didn't listen to her new album at all. I don't care for it. Like, you
may catch some hate.
I don't care. I don't care. I'll put some more out there. I think Rihanna's better. So there's that. I don't know. I don't care for Beyonce.
That would be an interesting debate to get some passionate fans about, I think. Beyonce or Rihanna, because two of the most passionate fan bases for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to have that discussion. Like, I'll do my research.
Rihanna may be dropping, is what I've heard. So maybe after that, we'll have a conversation.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I just got bored. I think I'll have to listen to it again because I was spending too much time trying to
see where the lyrics were.
Yeah, so like I didn't even really hear what Kendrick had to say. So cool little duo though. Like, I didn't think that'd be a thing.
Just based on the subject matter and like the title and the artwork, they feel like two very fitting artists to put out that song right now.
Yeah.
And I like when celebrities take a stand for what they believe in their field. Like when they like Kendrick did that a lot on his last album, and we've heard artists do that on albums. And when they release good songs, like Gambino's "This Is America," is a great song. Absolutely. And not only is it a great like message and great, ideals and values to have and commentary on social constructs, but the song itself is very good.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And so I do feel like they're very fitting on this song together. I'll be honest though, like I feel like I have to disagree a little bit with you, because I listened to like I kind of skimmed through Beyonce's album. I'm like you, I'm not the biggest fan of her whole bodies of works, but obviously with a new album, like I kind of wanted to just skip through it a little bit here. And I didn't even remember America Has a Problem being on the original track list. Just because like it kind of went in one year out the other. Like there's nothing that really stood out to me. But hearing it this second time, especially with Kendrick's first verse, I feel like it was as good or better from him than anything we got on Mr. Morale.
Really?
Yeah. Just personally, I feel like the flows on that and his lyricism and his vocals was just at the level that I felt like I was missing from him on that album. And then Beyonce felt, I will say her stretch of the song felt very long. I felt like it could have been shortened.
Yeah.
But it felt complimentary to what he did, which I really liked.
I think sound-wise, they sounded really good together. Just that might also be a portion of it. Because I started looking at like how long the song was going for.
It felt like 5 minutes.
It felt forever just because her part is really long. And Kendrick probably spit for like 20 seconds. Like it wasn't like super
It feels
long.
like an intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll listen to it again. Maybe I'll actually maybe I'll go actually find the real lyrics. But yeah, I might have been bored because of how long Beyonce's part was. Plus, I didn't like how she was trying to rap. It threw me off.
And to be honest, on this whole last album, a lot of the music felt out of place from her. And not to say that she didn't do a good job with it. Like, I think the nominations were probably earned. Like, she got a lot of Grammy noms for it. I think she has done a really good job in music in general. Again, she's not personally my favorite artist, but I think the recognition is earned for her. But a lot of it did feel out of place to me on the album, and especially on that song. I will say that's fair.
Right. I'll go give it another listen.
Cool. We got a couple little music topics that we want to keep covering before we jump into this review. This may be something that we kind of do every week or every few weeks. We wanted to kind of talk about what we're listening to aside from just new music that's come out, just what's in your rotation right now.
Right.
You got some songs or artists or albums that you want to shout out right now?
Yeah, so out of all of the research I did, this was one that I did not plan. Two new artists, not more so like super in my rotation right now, but like who I think has great songs right now. There's a song called Fine by Kyle Hume. I think that's how you pronounce his name. TikTok song, like whatever. But I like right now, and I was telling my friend this, I feel like a lot of these TikTok artists are killing it right now. Whether it's like it could very well just be a single. Like, and they'll probably, I'm not saying they won't, but like they probably won't ever make it huge. Maybe that's not what they want, or like whatever the circumstance may be.
Yeah.
But they've been like, I've been hearing a lot of great songs off of TikTok lately. Things that you won't see come out on like New Music Daily or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so Fine is a really good one. It's a sad song, but it kind of gives that Black Bear vibe of like an upbeat production with sad
vocals. Right. Yeah. Or sad lyrics. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But great song overall. It was very creative. He turns fine into an acronym. So it's like F is for feeling overwhelmed, and I is I'm not all right, N is for not being able to sleep, E for every like night. So super super creative. Cool. I really liked it. Another one, and honestly, they might all be from TikTok. So I got 3. Maybe 4. Silhouettes by Graham, another TikTok artist. It was just a vibe. I don't know if it's a sadder one. I kind of just throw it on. It's great background music. I like the lyrics. Then you have Shine. I think that's what it's called. See, I told you I wasn't ready for this.
We're probably, I think we're gonna link a couple of these songs in a playlist, and we'll try to link it on wherever you get your podcast, so you can check out these songs if you want to listen to them as well.
Right. So. Golden Hour. I'm sorry. Golden Hour by Jake, but it's spelled JVKE.
I've seen him. Yeah. He seems like he's been popping lately. I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, so he dropped an album, and it was kind of on in the background when I was hanging out with some of my friends. And then I started listening. I was like, this is actually really good. Like, this isn't half bad. Another dude that I saw on TikTok, he started off by just playing like a piano piece he made, and like, really, really good. Killed it on the piano. His vocals are beautiful. That's a solid song. That cool. out of the ones I'm saying right now, that's probably my favorite song so far. And then one more is called Sundown by Nick V, and I'm not gonna try to pronounce that. V Wills. That wasn't hard. Sundown. cute little song, solid production. I like Nick D a lot, so I already expected something good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for like new music and everything, those four I find really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely been a better market for those artists right now because I think, like you said, a lot of them would get lost in the algorithms of streaming back in the day.
Right.
New Music Daily is going to favor all the artists who already have a reputation,
right.
who are already popping. And they, to their credit, have found a place to make a lot of their music more well known. And I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've been listening to lately isn't a ton of like what I don't know how underground an artist can be if they're on TikTok, but like basically just like a lot more mainstream artists, I guess. I feel like I've had a lot of good releases lately. The thing that I've been coming back to the most is Morgan Wallen's new album, One Thing at a Time. And I tried to pick out like 2 or 3 songs that are like, oh, these are what I've been listening to. And honestly, it feels like most songs, whenever they come on, I don't skip it. Like I just enjoy a lot of what he's put out, which is interesting. I don't feel like I do that with a ton of albums, but another artist that I've been listening to a lot lately, and it feels weird that I chose right now to listen to them with everything going on, but I've been going through Kanye's discography all the way back from like College Dropout, trying to work my way through every album all the way up till now. And I just got through Dark Twisted Fantasy and The Life of Pablo, which I've known I liked those albums, but just going back through, it's super cool to like rediscover some of those songs. And I think like FML with The Weeknd is a great one. Runaway with Pusha T is iconic. Like that intro is fantastic. And I mean, I could go on about other songs that I've been finding of his that are super cool, but I've been listening to a lot of his stuff. The new Lupe Fiasco song Scent Rock. Did you listen to that one?
No.
Okay, so I think it came out just like a week or two ago.
Okay, so separate from
like brand new, not on his last album. Yeah. Production by, I think the producer's name is Scent Rock.
Okay.
And the whole song is just bars. I love it. Like it's super cool because I think he's one of the guys still kind of spitting in the lyrical rap game when that's kind of fallen off, it feels like a lot, or at least in the mainstream it has.
Absolutely.
And so it's cool to hear him just out putting bars, like no repetitive catchy chorus, no auto tune. Like he's just out there and the bars go hard on it, which was super cool. So I really like that one. Another one is that I found recently, I think it came out last year, but it was on the new Snake Hips album. Snake Hips is an EDM duo, but what I like about them is they're not super in your face. Like I feel like Marshmello or Calvin Harris or Diplo, a lot of these guys, their production is like so in your face that like, I don't know, it's like Daft Punk, but like with pop vocals in the background.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I like that Snake Hips, a lot of their stuff is more subtle and mellow. It's like something that I would listen to on the beach. Like it's very summery, upbeat, but it's very mellow at the same time. They have a song on their new album called Water with Bryce Vine, and the lyrics are not what we'd call deep or like outrageously good, but it's just a super fun vibe. Bryce is a good rapper on it. Like he sounds like his flow fits the production very well, and I really like hearing him kind of just ride that smooth beat. It's very summery, very upbeat, but a lot of mellow vibes too, which I liked.
Dope.
I also, and again, I feel like I'm gonna get hate for this. The new G-Eazy single, Tulips and Roses, came out a couple weeks ago. I get that a lot of people never like G-Eazy, and the like hate against him, valid for whatever your reason is. You feel like he's derivative, you feel like he's, I don't know, whatever. Like I totally get it, but a lot of his songs just have this kind of vibe that like sticks with you, I feel like. And it's not it's not out there, it's not innovative, it's not new per se, but I feel like he just has this niche in the hip hop world that he does really well when he wants to. And this felt like a return to his early stuff that got him into a lot of stardom, which was really cool to hear him kind of return to that. the chorus kind of take it or leave it. It fits, but I feel like he could have done it better.
Mm-hmm.
But the verses and the flows are just super cool. And the way he kind of leaves it off, I feel like he's going to be dropping something soon.
That'd be cool.
And I feel like he's kind of acknowledged in this song, like there's a part where he says something in my soul woke back up, like as he's making this song. And he like recorded it in Paris, which is why like, and so anyways, it feels like he's recognizing like the stuff I've been doing recently isn't my best work.
Right.
And like he feels like he's getting back to a true form of himself, which is really cool. So I'm hopeful for it. I'll be the first to admit, I haven't been the biggest fan of, like, I thought These Things Happen Too was okay. I thought it was pretty good. Stuff before that I wasn't in love with as much as I liked some of his early stuff. But I'm hopeful that this is kind of a little more return to true form for him.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and then the other one I listened to a lot that we just talked about was All My Life with Lil Durk and J. Cole. It's a super good song.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, so that's what we're listening to. Like I said, we'll link this down for people so they can check it out. Last topic before we get into this review, we wanted to talk about where our best 5 albums are at, what our top 5 albums so far in the first third of the year are.
Yeah.
Do you want to start for us, or do you want me to start? You want to go 5 down to 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I guarantee that our albums are going to differ in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm okay with that. There's one album I might go back and actually like listen to. I might go listen back to Jackman, just because I've heard a couple people break down some of his bars, and then then it impresses me. There you go. So I might go back and listen to that. Hopefully, going back a second time through will help. Are you counting Dreamville's like for Creed 3? Do you count that at all?
Yeah, if you I mean, whatever you like. If it can be a collab album, or
I was just looking through and like
for sure.
It's not top 5.
Okay, but something like that if it comes out. Okay,
I think that's 6 for me.
Yeah, like I would have put Metro Boomin's up there. Like looking back, it came out right at the end of last year, and so I didn't put it in my top 10.
Right.
But looking back, like I may put that up there if I were to redo my list.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So my number 5. Man, this year's music sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Not saying that he's bad, but it's gonna be Eric Bellinger's 1-800, whatever the heck the rest of the title is.
Hit Easy.
Yeah.
Line 2. That's way too long of a title.
It's way too long. But yeah, it was super vibey. It's good. Like a lot of it is good background music. I don't even know who this actually is. Like that was the first time I ever listened to when you sent it while I was doing my whole trip thing. And I might have to listen to that one again too. I might have got overhyped because
it wasn't what you were expecting.
Right. And I don't listen to a whole lot of diverse music. I'm usually pretty good with like my realm in music where it's like rap or pop. So like you have anywhere from Post Malone to Eminem or whatever. So to go out of my realm and really enjoy something was super cool. And I feel like doing that kind of helped my taste in music being as diverse as it is now. I feel like I listen to a lot more everyone. So I feel like that album helped me do that. But I think it was super vibey. It was cool background music. Even when I just kind of zoned out, it was really good. So that's my number 5.
Yeah. Do you want to go back and forth 5s, or do you want to go all the way through yours?
Either way.
Okay. I'll go. I mean, I'll just jump in and say that was my number 5 too.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Cool. I thought it was a good album. What held me back from putting it higher is he's a very derivative artist of Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Like if you were to put them both on a song, I wouldn't be able to tell who was who. That being said, Hit Boy's production and the features he incorporated made this, and my wife's gonna be really mad at me for saying this, it made it feel like a better version of the album that Chris Brown just put out last year. And there was moments on Breezy that I liked, but I feel like this production was better. It was a lot more diverse than Breezy was, and the features were admirable throughout it. I feel like they all did pretty well. There's a lot of good moments, but like I said, I feel like it would be higher if it didn't feel like an album I've already heard or an artist that I've already heard so much.
Yeah, that's valid.
So yeah, I mean, you can jump into your number 4 now.
All right, so
yeah,
we might as well jump back and forth.
Okay.
So my number 4 is, and this is where I know it's going to differ from a lot of people, because I have NF's Hope album at 4. I feel like I liked a lot more tracks than you did listening to it. But I'm not afraid to admit that it's nowhere near his best work. In fact, it's probably I can't say the worst just because I haven't listened to all of his projects throughout. But I know Perception, The Search, even Clouds, like all better. I don't know about Mansion. That's one that I didn't listen all the way through. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mansion was better too.
I feel like it's for me, it's pretty close to Mansion, and it's pretty close to Therapy Session.
Gotcha. Oh, Therapy Session too.
Yeah,
that's the one I forgot. But I had fun with it. I think I more so enjoyed hearing him coming out of such a dark place that we've always heard him.
I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seemed like a new start, a foot in a different direction, and him tying off loose ends of his past.
Sure.
So I think not just really the album, but more so the story side of it, and seeing where he was mentally to where he is now, I value a lot more. Yeah. Now I'm hoping, because before this dropped, when it was just Hope that got released, I saw a lot of people say like, oh, now he's gonna be trash because all he knows how to do is be sad and rap about it. So I don't want that to be true. So I'm hoping that with this being so new to him, that's so sad to say. With that being new to him, I hope he takes it to a better level with a new project, whether that be a mixtape or an album. But some of the songs I really did like Let 'Em Pray, I think is really good. There's another one towards the end of the album that I really liked. I think it was like I was telling you, like the last 3 songs on the album were like really good in my opinion. And then having the feature of Corday, I don't know who the other artist was that was
Julia Michaels, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
but I mean, good for her. Like she killed it. But but like having Corday on Careful, I think was really good. I think it's good for both of them. But
agreed.
I've been enjoying the people that NF is going out to get becoming features. Like the one with Hobson, what is that one called? It's Lost.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs from NF. Like easily.
It may be my favorite from
him. So I really enjoy with who he's been linking up with lately.
Yeah. Cool. I for sure can respect Hope, like especially for fans who are really invested in the emotion of his songs, which I would say is like most of his fan base. Like I don't think you get into NF unless you really vibe with the message of the songs.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people do. I think most people at some point in their life are vibing with that. And I definitely 100% agree. Like it's really cool to hear him address his fan base or the music world from a little bit happier of a place. Again, just for me, like I wrote a review on it, but just from a critical perspective, to me, it wasn't his best work.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I didn't put it very high in my rankings. But my 4th album was, again, like going back to what you said, I'm not in love with a lot of this year's albums, but what I have up there right now is Lovesick by Don Toliver. And I've liked some of Don Toliver in the past.
Right.
But again, he's been a very streaky artist for me. Like I felt like he's had a lot of weak points and a lot of weaknesses on his album. Like he dropped last year and I didn't love a lot of the project, but it was really cool to hear him. He kind of breaks into a little bit of a new sound on this one. The production's solid, which again, we kind of expect from Cactus Jack artists right now.
Right.
His vocals were pretty good throughout it. His flows were decent. Like the songs were catchy. Again, like I'm not in love with the project. I wouldn't consider it like one of the best albums I've heard by any means, but it's for sure like an admirable album and an album I really liked this year. Yeah. And I still listen to a lot of it. So indigestion.
Yeah. All right. This is another one where we'll differ. Not because it's like crazy out of pocket or nothing like that. My third is Morgan Wallen's. And it's only as low as it was a great album. It really was. And I like the reason why it's lower is because I'm not huge on country. And it was a super long album. It was like 30, what, 32?
36.
30. Oh my gosh.
That's like 3 albums.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super long. But for as many songs as it was, and for me not being huge on country, super enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like my favorite song off the whole thing was Neon Star. And it didn't even feel all that country. Like you got your country aspects, but it also brought a little bit more pop in it too.
For sure.
Yeah, overall solid project. Me personally, I wish it was a little bit shorter, or like do a side A, side B, kind of like how Eminem did with Music to Be Murdered By, and release like the second half like a month later or something like that, just to give everybody enough time to
digest half of it.
Yeah. But all the way around, like super good project, and I didn't think I would ever have a country album that high,
right?
Ever.
Yeah, it's a good one, and it's on my list for sure.
I know where it is on your list.
My third album that I did was Rush by Måneskin, which I know honestly this is maybe my least favorite part about this song. They're an international group. I think they're Italian. But I wish that they would just go by the English word for what Måneskin means, which is moonlight, because I think that's a sick band name. Yeah. And Måneskin sounds really weird just coming from America, which sounds super pretentious of me to say. But I think Moonlight's a sick band name, and at least in America. Like, let your American fans call you Moonlight. Not that they probably care that much, but anyways, I liked Rush a lot. There was I downloaded about half of the album, but in truth, there was only like 2 or 3 songs that I didn't love on it. There was 3 songs that were in Italian that were really good songs. I just don't know how often I'd be listening to it. It's not really always my cup of tea to listen to foreign language songs, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like that just isn't necessarily what I would always turn to, but very well executed. Like in general, those 3 songs. I still listen to a lot of that album as well, even though it came out early January.
Super early beginning of the year.
Yeah, but it's a really good project. I loved the production on it. I thought the instrumentals were really cool. I felt like I was listening to real live music the whole time. Like I feel like most artists nowadays, even the ones that have live instruments on their albums, like half of it's synthetic or produced or auto-tuned in the background, and it felt really cool to feel like a band was actually playing their music. It was very rock, but it wasn't very heavy rock, which was kind of cool to hear. But yeah, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea per se, but I did really like that album.
Solid album. That one's also on my list. Anyways, my number 2 is Black, Since I Have a Lover. Super cool. Like I'm used to him, and not saying I listen to him like a lot, but I'm used to him rapping, like coming in with bars, and not ones that are like in your face, but ones that you kind of like got to think about for a second, be like, oh, like that was actually really good. More on the mellow side, but this one feels a lot more R&B. Like it's beautiful all the way around. I want to say I downloaded like a good amount of that album, and like I swear I have ADHD or something, because I can't help myself when I zone out. I just do it all the time randomly. And so to have that kind of even just as background music is super soothing. Like it's a good vibe. I don't have like much of a problem with that album at all. So it was very refreshing, super nice. And from what he did before, like some of his earlier projects, to hearing him now, it sounds super matured. He sounds like, I feel like you can really hear the growth from
definitely.
Beginning to where he is right now. So
Yeah, that was my number 2 album as well. I think, like you said, a lot of it is different from what we've gotten from him before.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed Black. Like, I think he's had good music, but I wouldn't say I'm like a diehard.
Right.
And I know a lot of diehards that haven't loved this project because it's a lot different than his old stuff.
Right.
But again, from more of like a casual fan of his that isn't super like diehard on his old stuff, it is cool to hear like a lot of that maturity in him, even just in the aesthetic of the album. Like the sound of the album is not like as dark or as trap maybe as like Free Black from whenever he dropped that. I love the acoustic incorporation on so many of the songs, production with that R&B kind of stuff. Like Spirited Away, I think has a super cool instrumental. Inwood Hill Park has some great production. I also kept a ton of that album. And it's really cool to hear him lyrically mature too. Like,
absolutely.
I know a lot of those like old Black tracks that are like, I don't know, not like diss tracks, but like kind of breakup tracks maybe.
Yeah.
And hearing him like address the mic from being a father now, and I guess he was on East Atlanta Love Letter too, but like being in a good relationship now, being a father, and like that being his priority in life now was, for me as like a more casual fan again, was super cool to hear that kind of growth and maturity in his life.
Yeah.
And something I respect a lot. So I really like the sound of it too.
Yeah. It's a solid album. I wouldn't be surprised if that at least stayed in my top 3 for the rest of the year. I wouldn't be surprised. With my number 1, I don't know. I can't pronounce their name.
Maneskin.
Moonlight.
Let's just start that right now. According to this podcast,
in America, it's
Moonlight.
It is law now. I don't like how there's like a little circle above the E. It throws me off every single time.
It's not English. So.
I know. It's again going back to being pretentious and everything. Anyways, I love that album. I probably listen to it on a daily, not like on purpose or anything, because I just shuffle all of my music. I don't do playlists. And it'll pop up. One of their songs will always pop up. I never skip it. Like Own My Mind is probably one of my favorite songs and probably one of my most listened to songs this year so far. And then so before we did all of this, when I was doing my quote unquote research while I was at work, I was gonna try to listen to at least a good majority of the albums that I have written down and like top 5 and whatever. And so I listened to not the entirety of it, but almost their entire album. And I think I downloaded like 2 more songs. Like that, like now I really like, and I got rid of Gasoline. I didn't really vibe with that one the second time around. But yeah, no, like a good majority of that album I've downloaded. Super different sound to what I'm usually listening to.
Right.
And it's crazy because you were the one that like put me on them too. Like you're like, hey, have you heard these people? And no, why would I ever hear these?
Why would I have heard this Italian glam rock group? Got big last year.
You were telling me like, yeah, I was watching this thing and they're doing this like debut album thing. Have you heard of them? No, 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 I haven't heard of them. But yeah, no, it's very high energy. For a majority of it, but then you do get your slower songs like The Loneliest. That's another one of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
Beautiful song.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that album. I have a lot of fun listening to whatever song ends up coming up on shuffle, but I don't think I've skipped them once yet. So
nice.
Pretty good terms.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've hinted at my number 1 for so long now, but it's One Thing at a Time by Morgan Walmart.
I wish you still looked like him.
Jaden's referring to when I had long curly hair and I would tuck it behind my ears while wearing a trucker hat. I looked exactly like Morgan Wallen, but we called it Morgan Walmart because I was the off-brand version. So yeah, I really like this album. I really like the variety on it. I will be honest, I feel like I've heard more of the criticisms going through it continuously. It does feel like kind of like he took a bunch of wet napkins and just threw it at the wall to see what would stick and like what people would enjoy.
Yeah.
But the quality of it all is so good that like all of it stuck for me, if that makes sense. So I really liked that. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure we'll return to this list more often, but I think One Thing at a Time for sure was my favorite album I've heard so far.
Valid too. That our lists weren't as different as I thought they would
be.
Yeah,
we had a lot of pretty similar ones.
Yeah, there's only one album for each that wasn't on. It was Hope
and Hope and Lovesick.
Lovesick.
Yeah.
I'm a little more shocked than I thought I'd be. Oh, you're pulling up movie stats now.
Yeah, I want to read the description. I don't want to watch it right now. I just want to look at movies. All right, so we're finally here at what we've been advertising this podcast episode that's been far too long for. The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. This is a good movie. Marvel describes it as the band of misfits in their cinematic universe. It's been a fan favorite since they got introduced. Incorporating them in Infinity War was called the greatest crossover since X, Y, or Z. There was tons of memes about it when it came out. But just some quick like stats before we start this thing that I was super surprised. This has the highest fan score on Rotten Tomatoes out of any Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Really?
Yeah, and it has the lowest critic score of all three of Guardians of the Galaxy movies on Rotten Tomatoes, which was super interesting. On IMDb, it's the highest rated Guardians of the Galaxy, and IMDb's fan votes, but it had over 120,000 votes put it there.
Dang.
And it's currently rated the 145th best movie of all time.
Wow.
On IMDb, which is surprising.
Right.
Like, I mean, we'll get into our review of it, but like that was a surprising thing when I read that.
Yeah. See, I might have to watch both of them again. I don't think the second one is good at all, but like I thought the first one was really, really good. Right. I don't have the third one beating the first, but I might have to watch them like back to back to see like what I actually think. So hearing some of those is actually crazy because I don't know. That's really crazy actually. Did you know PETA approves? They love this movie.
Dude, I saw that actually. Like, I think I literally read an article like from PETA right before I saw it.
Yeah, like they have it as like the best animal rights movie of like the year, like however long or whatever. Dude,
maybe
it was.
Ever. Yeah. Like since Blackfish, probably.
Yeah, like it was. I thought it was so funny when I saw that. I was like, well, PETA approves is probably pretty good.
Because PETA has such an important value over rating movies. He is the be all end all for whether your movie's good or not. No, but it for sure is a good movie in that message. I guess before like this review is going to contain spoilers, obviously. Absolutely. Before we jump into that, give me your out of 10. Where do you rate this movie? Like just, and then whoever doesn't want to hear the spoilers can cut out after this.
So the way me and Jonah review when it's movies like this is we have a little like format,
like a little rating system kind of thing.
Yeah. So let me pull that up real quick.
He's doing his research, seeing what he rated this thing.
Where the heck?
It's been too long since you guys recorded on Sunday night last week to remember your rating.
Don't roast me right now. Oh, I think it's this one. Yeah. So I rated it an 8.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it could get to I don't think it's anything lower than an 8 in my opinion. Like the actual rating was a 7.7, so I just rounded up to an 8. No, I thought that movie was super good.
Yeah.
I think the entire story was beautiful. I like how they were doing kind of like a 2-story thing simultaneously.
Yeah, like, kind of going through 2 storylines.
Right.
It felt
like you're seeing all of Rocket's background at the same time you're trying to save his life. So it's like, oh, there's a spoiler right there.
That's okay.
But yeah, just seeing two stories go on at the same time, really getting to know the character of Rocket, and his upbringing was super cool. I saw somebody post a clip from the first Guardians, and it's when like Rocket's super drunk and he's like talking about like, I didn't ask to be created or made, and like after seeing the third one, kind of hits a little bit harder. It's like, dang, that's super sad, man. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I'd give it an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we kind of have a couple spoilers already, but like not that big of spoilers, I don't think.
Right.
But
yeah.
I was close. I would give it a 7.5
That's
so
valid.
far.
Yeah.
So I mean, and now we'll kind of, if you don't want to hear more spoilers than what you've already heard, then you can tune out right now. But let's kind of dive into it a little bit more. I mean, do you have thoughts that you want to jump in with, or like how do you want to go into this film?
I don't know.
We just dive into it.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of hinted at it already, and one of the things that I noted is like right when I saw this movie is it heavily relies on the emotional investment of the audience.
Yeah.
Like the storyline's good. It's not like what I would call super out there or like original per se, in that like I feel like we have a lot of tragic backstories about superheroes. Right. We have a lot of films where superheroes are working to save their like team against a higher, or like not a higher, but a villain or whatever. But it relied very heavily on the audience's emotional investment, which going into the first few minutes of the movie felt dangerous with the Guardians of the Galaxy because one, they're kind of known as the funny group, and two, how it feels difficult to make you heavily emotionally invested in a CGI raccoon. And that's not even like a diss or anything against the Guardians of the Galaxy. It just seems like a tall order. Like seems like something that would be hard to do, but they do it very successfully. Like I saw this meme on Instagram of Danny DeVito in a movie theater. I don't know if you've seen this one, but he's like just sobbing in the theater, and the caption, and then like in the background, it has some of the clips from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And it's like me watching the origin story of a CGI raccoon, and Danny DeVito's just like sobbing in the audience. And I was like, it's true. They do a really good job making you emotionally invested. It's hard not to be, like, even if you're trying not to be, it's hard to be like just stone-faced about it. It's tough.
Yeah, it really is. And like another thing that I really liked about this one was how much character development we see with every single character. It's not like they left one or two characters out. I feel like everybody got a good amount of character development in this one, where I started enjoying each character and who they were a lot more. Because you see, like, one of the biggest ones in my opinion is Nebula. Like, from where we first saw her as this just villain, like daughter of Thanos, trying to wreak havoc so that she gets her father's approval, to someone who's kind of laying back on that and kind of joining the Guardians, to somebody who is a part of this team now, who is honestly probably like second in command in this movie. Like, it's Star-Lord, and then I'd say Nebula takes a good amount of charge. And you even see her grow all the way till the end, to where it's like, where she talks to Drax about like, hey, I'm gonna stay in the city, and it'd be really cool if you were the one to like help out.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, character development was beautiful all the way around for each character. It was cool to see the funny characters like Drax and Mantis become somebody who actually played a part towards the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Show their actual value instead of just being that comedic figure.
Right.
Star-Lord's whole storyline in that, with still being heartbroken about Gamora and like working with her again, but it's not the same Gamora.
Right.
And then kind of like tying the loose ends with that, like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just seeing all of these characters grow throughout the entire movie, and then looking back on their trilogy, has been super cool to see too.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, like I wrote down as well that character development for Rocket was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the films before this in the Guardians, like I guess the two Guardians movies before this were obviously very heavy on Star-Lord. He was the main character 100%.
Right.
And that's where most of his character development came from. We do get a little bit for him here, but most of it for sure is in the first two films.
Absolutely.
And then Gamora's development, we get a lot of that from the Infinity War and Endgame saga.
Right.
So it was cool to see like some of these other characters who are fan favorites get a little bit more backstory, like Rocket or right. Mantis gets a little bit kind of a development, as well as Drax. He gets some too.
Right.
I will say that for me it felt a little weird as far as the placement of some of that character development when so much of it was focused on Rocket.
Right.
It felt like a little bit of it was forced to me, just like they were kind of forcing more character development on Star-Lord when I didn't feel like it was fully necessary. I felt like we kind of knew where he was, and he ends up in a good place, but I felt like throughout it, not all of that was necessary, where he's kind of sad about Gamora. It felt like it was kind of a given. There was the funny scene where they're in space kind of talking to each other.
Yeah.
Which I thought was well placed, but like some of that just felt a little bit forced to me. And so I won't say necessarily it was a bad thing, but I definitely think like Rockets takes center stage in the film for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So and I thought the High Evolutionary, who's the villain in the film, he was fine, like nothing outrageous that's like new to cinema before. He was giving me kind of some, I guess, more serious version of Grandmaster from Thor, like some of those kind of vibes, just similar principles of what he's after and kind of how he goes about his business.
Right.
But again, a lot more serious. I thought he did a good job. It was a good film.
I really enjoyed his acting. I think he really killed the part. Like,
perfect actor for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I feel like it's really good to get those actors who play the part to where you hate them. Like, because that's the goal. You're not supposed to like this dude whatsoever. You're supposed to hate him. He's a terrible dude. He's evil. Like, he's tragic.
Yeah.
So I think he did that to a T. So shout out to him. I don't know his name, but he's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a good job. And what I liked, I mean, I wrote down Will Poulter's Adam Warlock character. I just had 2 thumbs up. Like, I thought he was good at incorporation. Like, I liked his kind of redemption path a little bit in it. He didn't feel like a crucial character per se to the movie. I mean, I get that like a lot of the storyline revolves around them trying to like help out the High Evolutionary to get in his good graces, but I will say it felt like there were moments where they could have gone about that differently and not had to incorporate him. But I think he did a good job. Like I enjoyed the moments when he was on the screen.
I hated him.
Really?
Yeah,
But you just said if you hate them, then they're doing a good job.
Not.
You just hated his acting.
I hated Adam Warlock being in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the comics, Adam Warlock's this super cool, like, I don't even know what he actually is, but he goes crazy in the comics. Even his like look is a lot better. I don't know. And they explained why he acts the way he is. It's because he was being born or made or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And they ended the process early, so he's not all the way there.
Yeah.
So I get that he's a little stupider and doesn't really pick up everything.
Kind of
down.
Doesn't understand all the sarcasm, or stuff. Yeah.
But that's not what I expect from Adam Warlock. Like,
that's fair.
I expect something like that from Drax.
Yeah.
So just now, mind you, there were a couple funny moments with Adam Warlock, like when he blasted the Ravager to smithereens and just bones were in the chair. Like,
you said what? Teach him a lesson or whatever. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
We mean business.
Show him we mean business, and then he's like, "Okay, I did."
This is what you asked. I didn't like the look of Adam Warlock. It looks like somebody just
spray painted Will Poulter gold.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. But yeah, like there are some moments that I do enjoy for a comedic factor.
Sure.
But when I think Adam Warlock, that's not who.
Yeah, and that's fair. I feel like for me, it was maybe a setup to a better Adam Warlock in the future, because I will agree with you, he doesn't give a lot of the same vibes that he does in comics or animated stuff.
Right.
But I feel like being a Guardian now sets him up more kind of maybe for that character development in the future. But that's a fair criticism.
Yeah. Did you stay for the end credit scenes?
Yeah.
So that's like one of the biggest questions I have now, because obviously James Gunn is gone.
Sure.
Which I think was a huge reason this movie was as good as it was James Gunn. It's a James Gunn movie. I feel like he's very good at what he does, and I think that's what scares me a little bit now is he's not there anymore. So what is this group going to look like?
Right.
And then on top of that, like it says Star-Lord's going to return, and then you hear Chris Pratt like a week later say, "Yeah, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore."
Right.
And so there's like a lot of question marks now because you didn't get any deaths. There was 0 deaths in that movie with any of the heroes. Which cool. I'm fine with that because you have Star. Huge spoilers. We've already said, but this is all of it. You have Star-Lord who goes back to Earth and is living with his grandpa. And then it says, Star-Lord returns and will return.
Yeah.
You have Nebula and Drax who are staying
at nowhere.
Yeah. You have Mantis who's going to go figure out her life, which I wouldn't be surprised if we got a show for Mantis.
It does feel like something that they would do for sure.
But then you have Rocket and Groot who are leading this so-called new Guardians team. But are they going to do it? Like that's where I'm worried, because James Gunn has already said it should be continued. Like obviously these heroes are done being together. Like you probably won't see them ever again on the screen together.
Like what we'd call a Guardians 4 maybe.
Right. But there's a lot of writers and directors out there who can make a great movie for this new Guardians team. Right. So I'm just there. I feel like there are a lot of question marks, whether they're good or bad. I feel like there's a lot of story left with all of these characters, and it would just be super unfortunate if that was just it. Like we never saw Star-Lord again, or like more with the Ravengers. There's all these things I feel like has a lot of setup to it, when before the movie everybody was like, I don't even know if I want to do the third one. So
I agree. That was the biggest holdup for me about calling this a great movie or saying that Marvel is back, like per se. They've had a lot of weak movies, and that was like the biggest holdup for me in saying that, is where does this leave off? Do I really want to watch a Guardians movie where Groot and Rocket are leading Adam Warlock and that
Cosmo
kid, and Cosmo? Like, I don't know if that's really a movie that interests me that much. And I'm not saying it couldn't, but it leaves so many more question marks than where it started, I felt like. And I feel like it would have been better suited to set up for, like, honestly, I think a Rocket and Groot Disney Plus show would do fantastic.
Yeah, no,
I know we have those little like shorts, I Am Groot or whatever, that they did of Baby Groot, which was fine. Like that's whatever,
Right.
But I think that would be a great fan favorite show to put those two together, and it doesn't feel like it's set up for that right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that they made Rocket the leader, like the new leader, because I feel like throughout the entire Guardians movies, it was Star-Lord and then Rocket.
Yeah.
So to make him the new leader is super cool. But I agree. I think it would have been a lot cooler for Groot and Rocket to go off and do their thing and their adventures. But I mean, nobody was expecting Guardians to be good in the first place.
Sure.
So it's like, why not give this new group a chance?
Yeah.
But I do see the worry too, because like I said, it's James Gunn. Solid director. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel like there's so many question marks for this team now.
Yeah, especially like you said, Chris Pratt saying that he may or may not want to do another one. Dave Bautista, who plays Drax, said he's not coming back for sure.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Zoe Saldana doesn't want to play Gamora again. She's done it for a really long time. I mean, replacing Vin Diesel as Groot, even if you did have to do that, wouldn't be that hard. Like, you could just auto-tune anybody's voice to sound like that, I feel like. Bradley Cooper as Rocket, again, like, not as bad for him. Like, he may be interested in doing that more, but I don't know. Like, I definitely feel like it leaves a lot more question marks than where the movie starts off as far as where is this going? Like, where is the MCU going? Where are the Guardians of the Galaxy going? But in general, I think the main focus of the movie is Rocket, right? We've gone over that, but his character development is where we see the most questions answered in this movie.
Yeah.
And in general, I thought like the movie was handled pretty well. Like, it balanced out those really serious tones with a good amount of comedy.
Yeah.
And it balanced it a lot better than I feel like Marvel's done recently. Yeah. Like, a lot of them are either too serious and their comedic relief felt way too forced, or it was way too comedic and had no like levity to the movie.
Right. I think, because I've been talking about this for a while now, about having a darker tone back to Marvel, and I think they did it to like a T.
Yeah.
It was the perfect amount of seriousness and darkness. Like,
sure.
It got gruesome sometimes, like how Rocket kind of like lunged at the High Evolutionary's face and like tore him up. And then even like at the end, seeing like them actually ripping off his face and we see it.
Yeah.
Like that.
It was like some
that was a lot.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Two-Face kind of stuff. Like, yeah, for sure.
Gross. It was kind of scary.
Right.
So, but I feel like that is what I've been asking for, is bring back some sort of darker tone. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to be DC dark.
Yeah.
But
make me emotionally invested in it. Yeah. Make it like something worth caring about.
Right. And so I think they did really, really well with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear? Not here. Did you know? So you know how you hear like Groot actually speak like "I love you guys" and whatever.
Yeah.
You hear what James Gunn came out and said about that?
No.
So the reason why he says "I love you guys" and like he's speaking and everything is because, you know how Gamora and Groot have that last little interaction and she finally understands what he's saying. It's because she has been around him long enough to where she's actually like hearing what he's saying. So James Gunn came out and said, like, the audience has been around Groot for so long, we understand, like, we speak his language, which I thought was like, it's nothing huge.
No, but it's like a cool tidbit.
Super cool. And it's James Gunn confirmed. So like that, I think you could do a lot with that. Not like super important to a story or anything, but another question is, now, are we going to hear Groot speak now? Is he going to actually have lines?
Yeah.
Because throughout all Guardians, it's not like he talks a lot already. Like, it's every once in a while he'll actually speak. So it's not like you have to spend a whole lot of money on Vin Diesel. Like, you already do. You might as well get a couple lines from him.
Dude, honestly, who has a better freaking gig in Marvel than Vin Diesel? Literally. You sit down for 3 hours and record all of your film's lines and take home a massive paycheck for saying the same thing in different tones of voice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like, you might as well get what you're paying him for and get a couple lines in. Especially because this new look Groot being this massive, like, warrior looking tree dude.
Yeah.
I think Vin now plays it perfectly. I feel like
the voice fits the character now. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, just a cool little tidbit from James Gunn.
For sure. What did you think of the CGI in this movie?
Okay, so I'm super bad when it comes to CGI. Like, I feel like if it's super bad, then I can tell that it's bad.
Yeah. So did you feel like this was super bad?
No.
Okay.
I felt like it all looks great. It was a beautiful movie. I feel like I can always trust Guardians for that. It's a great looking picture.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think for me, like, it's easy to tell the animals and the characters are CGI, right? It's not like I'm being convinced that, like, oh, did they get a raccoon actor to play this guy? Like, it's obvious, right? But one thing I did love about the movie is I feel like a lot of these recent ones, like Doctor Strange or Endgame or even Infinity War and some of those, when there's scenes in outer space, it looks kind of like you're watching a cartoon sometimes to me. And I think they did a lot better than in this one. Like there's a ton of space planetary stuff, and it doesn't feel like you're watching a cartoon in that aspect. Like it feels like a more realistic setting and backdrop for the film, which I really liked.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. Like, I mean, if I can't tell, I feel like it's pretty good.
It's fine. Yeah, it's like, good enough.
I think the first time I realized something was bad CGI was Thor: Love and Thunder when it was the floating head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah. So it wasn't that. Not during Black Panther's train fight scene.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like I was watching a cartoon for like 30 minutes when that happened.
I'm telling you, I can't tell bad CGI.
That's fair.
At all.
That's fair.
Another cool fact is they used a lot more prosthetics in this movie.
I did hear that actually.
Instead of CGI.
Yeah.
Which, super cool.
Yeah.
Like not moving away from CGI, but being able to use other resources instead of just relying heavily on CGI.
Yeah. I think that's a great move for films because movies like Planet of the Apes do that very well, where there's a great balance of CGI and practical effects.
Right.
And I think like even this most recent Batman film does that pretty well. Like they use a lot of prosthetics, a lot of real shots, and the CGI just complements what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good route for films because there does get to a point where when you use so much CGI, you have nanotech Iron Man fighting CGI Thanos on a CGI planet.
Right.
Like nobody's actually there filming or acting these things. Like it's just some guy on a computer mapping this out to look like this, and it can start to look cartoonish.
Right.
So I think when they balance that out, it does wonders for movies.
Agreed. I got beef with the rabbit and the walrus.
Yeah, so they were a little weird. Okay.
Not because of anything they did.
Teefs and Floor.
Yeah, because why is that their names? I get why it's their names, but the fact that a walrus is making me look stupid on every podcast that I talk about him because I have to say his name is Teefs. Yeah, it's a little disrespectful on his end.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It does seem odd. I will say that those characters they weren't bad, but they made me cringe a little bit sometimes. They were just a little off for my liking. And that's part of it for sure. Granted, like they got their brain function the day before or however long before. Like they're not very highly evolved beings, right? But yeah, they rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. It just made me cringe just a little bit sometimes.
I hated and I'll never forget it, which I guess is good for them. But like the whole line and the whole scene where that stupid rabbit goes, "My name is Floor because I'm on the floor." I have beef with the rabbit now.
Okay.
I hated that.
Yeah.
Makes me so upset. Like with Lila, at least she came up with even Rocket is an idiot for naming himself Rocket. Like all three of them are dumb. Lila actually came up with a cool name. Like,
yeah, the rest of them are just like other inanimate objects.
Teefs, and he didn't even say it right. Floor and Rocket. Rocket's at least cool, but
yeah, Teefs. So, that makes you cringe to hear right now.
I just hate them so much for that.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, but getting into the point of these characters a little bit, I was absolutely blown away in this movie because I think we got the best moral out of any Marvel movie that's ever been made. Like old, new, MCU, non-MCU. Truthfully, like I think the best moral of the story came out of this movie. And I feel like they explained what a lot of us have been getting out of superhero movies for so long. The reason this genre is so big and so many people are so passionate about, I felt like finally was the forefront of a movie.
Right.
And it was when Lila says, when again, I mean, we've already covered these are going to be spoilers here, but when Rocket is kind of lingering whether or not he's going to go into the afterlife and he sees his friends again,
right.
And Lila, and he's complaining like, I didn't want to be this. I didn't want to be in this scenario.
Right.
And Lila says, there are the hands that made us, and then there are the hands that guide their hands. And that's Lila that says it to him. And then she says, the story has been yours all along. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that, and I was like, did I just literally hear this from, what is she, a seal?
She's like a
ferret,
an otter.
An otter. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I literally was like, did I literally just hear this from a freaking CGI otter? And it's like hitting home with me. Like, oh my goodness, because it's so true. I think these superhero movies, there's a lot of people who don't vibe with them, and that's totally cool. Right. Like, whether or not it's your cup of tea, that's up to you. But a lot of us get value in these and are passionate about them, not because we like are super interested in like, oh, the costumes are cool and the fighting's cool. And like, that's fine and it's whatever. And it makes for entertainment. But I feel like a lot of people who are passionate about that get value in what the character stands for. I think there's a reason that all of these characters, almost all of them, are birthed out of trauma. Like they become who they become out of trauma. Right. And they battle with demons throughout their whole time as a superhero, not only to help other people, but to get through it themselves. And like, how true is that moral for all of us in life? Like, I know there's times in my life where I've been like, man, this circumstance that affected me, I didn't ask for it. I didn't want this trauma. I didn't want to be going through this. But like, whether or not you believe in God or a higher power or just karma or whatever, I think we all find greater purpose and hope in understanding there may be something better to come out of this. And there's a reason that we went through it. And whether, like I said, whether or not you believe in God or whether you believe in like a higher power or the universe or anything, even if the reason that you went through it is like to make circumstances better for the next generation, for your kids or your friends or whoever, I think that's what a lot of us have been getting out of these movies and these stories for so long, because they develop it so well. And to me, like, to hear that and to see Rocket going through all of this, and then it explained so clearly, like there's reason and there's meaning behind going through something difficult in life.
Right.
And like, not to get on a soapbox and be overly emotional again about CGI animals, but like I said, I think this has been in this genre forever. I think this has been in comic books since they were invented. I think there's a reason that like a lot of kids who get into comic books are kids who are maybe on the periphery. They don't feel like they have a lot of friends. And that's not to say this is everybody. This is kind of a generalization, right? But I know for me, like when I felt like other kids didn't really like get along with me that well, or like maybe I felt like I was a little more odd or quirky, or like kids didn't always love hanging out with me or whatever, I felt like that's what like I got interested in those things and kind of dove into that, and feeling like, hey, this character that I'm reading about went through this hard time. Like, I know for a big one for me was Spider-Man. Like he lost his uncle. Everybody knows that story, right? And that's how he becomes Spider-Man. But I think the larger thing is like, going through a challenge can make something so much better in your life, and you can get through that challenge and cause greater change in your life. And life isn't always going to be easy when you get to a better place. Like, you're still going to go through those challenges, I think.
Right.
But like, honestly, I was like, seriously, did I just hear like this moral from a CGI otter? Like, it blew my mind, but I was like, how did this hit home so much for me? But anyways, I wanted to like talk about that for a second, because I felt like it was the pinnacle of the movie right there, was that interaction that they had, because we've all had challenges in our life, and we've all had moments where we feel like, we want the present challenge to be over, and we don't always get to get out of that right away. And so it was really cool to kind of have that laid out. And I'm sure there's going to be like people who like make fun of it for being corny or whatever, because it's like, because of the circumstances that it was given under. But I don't know. For me, it was super cool to hear that. And like, I really do think that it was the best moral I've gotten out of a Marvel movie for sure recently. Mm-hmm. And that may be like the best one-liner in terms of like the value I think that it has, that I've heard in Marvel for sure recently.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny that it came from a CGI otter, though.
Right.
Not even like one of your typical heroes.
And it's not like RDJ tells
Yeah.
tells Tom Holland like on his deathbed or whatever. Like that would be one thing, but the fact that it's two CGI animals in the afterlife is like, what the heck? You kidding?
Yeah. No, that I agree. And then like I don't know how emotional you I'm an emotional wreck with most of Marvel movies, to be honest. But like, did this movie get you at all?
I will say it did make me feel a lot of emotions.
Gotcha.
Like I haven't been a big crier
Yeah.
in general,
Yeah.
but like in movies it's tougher. Like I could maybe name one or two instances where that's happened.
Yeah.
But it definitely like gave a lot of emotional vibes
Yeah.
and emotional feelings. Like I was invested in it 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I try not to cry anymore because I usually see it with Ty and James, and
So they roast
they
you.
make fun of me a lot for doing it. Like they'll never let Endgame go. They will
Yeah.
never let that go. I was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah.
But it I I let one tear out. And
Okay.
it was during that part. It wasn't even that Rocket was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I want to come with you guys.
Yeah.
It was the part where Lila was like, your story's not over. Like, you're
Yeah.
not done yet. Like, they still need you.
Yeah. And I feel like that scene wasn't, or at least that instance in that scene wasn't so much of like an emotion of sadness as it was of like inspiration, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the only time I teared up in that one. But
I remember being 14 and me and a bunch of homies from my baseball team went to see The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And of course, like Gwen Stacy dies at the end of that movie, right? And I was like flabbergasted. So I like looked down the aisle at all of my team, and like four of them just like 14-year-old dudes just had like tears coming down their face. I was like, oh my god, what the heck's happening? It was hilarious. But yeah, it was an emotional movie for sure. And not just a lot of, like I said, not a lot of sad emotions per se, though there is that, like there is a lot of heartbreak and sadness in the film, but just an emotional ride. It felt like there's tons of highs where you're really happy, you're laughing, and then there's like these moments of despair where you're really frustrated watching the movie or you feel really bad for a character.
right.
And then there's so much hope that comes out of a lot of these individual plot lines and storylines, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Overall, really, really good movie. And I was telling Jonah this, like, I don't think this movie alone could be said to quote unquote save Marvel, like people are saying.
Sure.
But I definitely think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think I want to say at least two more solid movies would, I would say Marvel's back on track. But then the question is, was it that good because it was James Gunn? So that's what I'm going for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got the Marvels to look forward to is one of the next ones. So I don't know. I don't know how high you want your hopes to get up for that. And then isn't there the movie about what's the villain from WandaVision? Agatha? Is that her name? Agatha?
Yeah.
You got that coming out too soon.
I'm actually kind of excited for that one.
I think it could be good. It just feels like a weird character to make a movie about or a show about with so little exposure. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I just think I've seen her before. I don't know her actual name, but
she's in those HubSpot commercials where it's like a Wild West commercial about like an app to run businesses. Anyways, that's the only other place I know her from, so that's why I said that.
No, she killed her part in WandaVision.
Yeah, I agree.
So like that's the only reason why I wouldn't say excited, but I'm kind of looking forward to
optimistic for it at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, yeah, it's like not a character I know about at all. Like I know zero things about this character except what we've seen in WandaVision.
Sure.
But yeah, the Marvels, I won't see that in the theater. I might see it when it comes out on Disney Plus. That's a maybe.
That's a maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on the reception of it.
Depends how bored I get.
Okay. Fair enough. Man, is there anything else you got you want to dive into on this movie? I feel like we covered a lot of ground on it.
not gonna lie, I didn't really like that Nebula said that whole thing about no, you weren't made to be a destroyer, you were made to be a death. No, his name is literally Drax the Destroyer. I didn't like that.
Yeah,
like
there
I
was.
understand, but no.
I feel like there's for sure some cheesy bars, but I definitely feel like you get that from pretty much every what you'd call feel good movie. There's always a little bit of that, especially if it's taken out of context. So
yeah,
yeah,
kind of makes me sad that we're.
It did feel like something I would hear in like a Transformers film, though, which I thought was funny.
I'm glad that we saw more of that Drax the Destroyer version in this movie. I feel like we got a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Like, just like his brute strength and like.
Yeah, dude, that hallway slow-mo scene was one of the best Marvel scenes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that one, and like when they all tag teamed the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Yes, the action scenes were solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I feel like I've come to expect from the Guardians. Like, it was way better action sequences than I feel like we've gotten in the last couple movies.
Even one of my favorites was when it was Star-Lord and Groot, because it's not like a team up, or not a team up, but it's not like a fighting duo I'd ever expect. But then how Groot just kind of like takes all of the guns out of his body and like.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like General Grievous.
Yeah, but a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've listened this far, you've probably already seen Guardians of the Galaxy, or you don't plan on seeing it, or you don't care if you've seen spoilers. But if for some reason you're here and you haven't seen it, I think we both recommend going out to give it a watch. It's a good movie, I think, for anybody who, honestly, I think anybody could find some enjoyment in it. Yeah. Though. I mean, unless your cup of tea isn't superheroes, then you may not love it or get invested. But I think we both liked it a lot more than most recent Marvel projects.
Absolutely. I think story alone is reason enough to see it. Like, even like, don't even think of it as superheroes. I think it was just a really, really good story.
Yeah, so. I agree for sure. Well, we appreciate y'all for tuning in, checking this out. Not every week is going to be this long. It was definitely a little bit longer as we're jumping into our first episode here. Hopefully it won't be our last. I think we're planning on doing this for a bit, but we we're out on anywhere you get your podcasts pretty much. Leave us a comment if you want us to let you know our thoughts on any other movies or albums that you guys are interested in. Follow us on social media so you can stay up to date on all of our stuff. And
even if you wanted to, like, by all means, send us new music.
Absolutely.
Questions, your own sort of review, just anything. We have socials on most so we platforms. Have Insta, TikTok, and YouTube that are aside from anywhere you get your podcast from. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I think we're gonna call it good for this one. We'll be back here next week, we're hoping, with some new content for you guys. So appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
All right.